So what I like to start with is turn to the person next to you and just describe in 3 words, how would you describe your mind? So if you were to describe your mind in 3 words, what words would you use? Okay. So yeah, we'll do 3-4 minutes. Analytical. Okay. Restless. Okay. Yeah. Any more? Creative. Emotional. Okay.
Structured chaos.
Structured chaos. Okay. Good.
Busy.
Yeah.
Busy. Okay. I'm just imagining when you say structured chaos, imagine your room like it's probably like, is it messy and then structured or?
No, it's absolutely organized.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I say chaos because we have multiple things going on in our head, right? Busy
Yes.
heads, right? So
Yes.
it's structured, but then
Yeah.
it's like having multiple browsers open.
Good.
Yeah.
We're going to come to
For
that.
mine, it's like
That's a
that.
good
Yes.
Yeah, it's so many browsers
That's a
open
good
and
enough.
like trying to close
Yeah.
them.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a non-stop to-do list.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that actually. We're going to do a deep dive into multiple browser
I
theory.
have 350 tabs, so
There you go.
And then imagine the head.
Yeah, amazing. So chaotic, busy, creative. Any more? Maybe 1 or 2 more? You guys?
You had repetitive or repeating.
Repetitive.
emotional, somebody mentioned.
Emotional. Yeah.
Overthinking.
Overthinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
jumping.
Jumping. Okay. It's interesting how we actually describe the mind, and everyone's mind has different things going on. And most of these words that you mention are sort of for some sort of, the mind has personality, you know. It's jumping, it's creative, it's all over the place sometimes it's organized, sometimes we have tabs. And how do we, connect with the mind? How do we navigate the mind? Okay, I'm going to ask you guys another question. Most people, when they try and rest or relax, in a way they're trying to escape the mind. What's some of the activities, what do you think are the most popular activities that people do to rest and relax? TV? Okay.
Movies.
Yeah. TV. What else?
Holidays,
yeah.
TikTok. Oh, I mean, I'm doing intros.
Workout.
Yeah.
Runs,
Gym?
Yeah,
Yeah.
gym.
Gym? Or, yeah.
Sport.
Sports, yeah.
Reading.
Mention TikTok.
Any more?
Reading.
Reading? Yeah.
Yours, TikTok.
Yeah.
For sure.
Family, friends, teenage
Going
kids.
for a walk?
You haven't
Yeah.
seen
Family,
yourself?
friends,
Wow.
teenage kids, and it's blocked.
Socialising.
Some people.
Socialising.
Yeah.
So the question is, what do people do to relax or rest?
Chess.
Huh?
Chess.
Chess?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I definitely think there's a word on that, like people drink to get to stop.
Yes.
To get
Yes.
to jump.
Yes.
So you don't
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just drink, but
To stop the mind.
Yeah, to like to turn it down.
Turn it down.
not just drink, but also drugs, intoxication.
You can
Yeah.
get into different
It did
forms.
one addiction.
Watching this.
What do people do to relax, like when there's like?
I think play with the kids.
Right.
Kids. Okay.
Come on, guys.
Art. Yeah.
It's an
Play a
interesting
game with
list.
the kids, card game or something.
Building
Or
things.
Okay.
Take them somewhere.
Building. Okay.
You have to do something. You'll be 100% on it.
So
Gardening.
Gardening. Gardening. Yeah. Okay. So I think we've got a lot there. So
Sports. Yeah, you could.
We said sports. Yeah.
Do you mind if I use this chair?
Please, please.
Thank you.
Okay, so they did so you guys got most of it. They did a study on what are the top 3 things that people do to relax, escape.
TV.
There's one missing on there. That's
Sex.
one of the top one. Huh?
Sex.
Sex.
Sleep.
Sleep. Sleep. Yeah, sleep.
Sleep.
So sleep,
Bath.
watching TV and going on holiday. These were the top 3 things. I'm sure these are all also equally becoming popular or popular.
Which was number one?
I think number one was sleep. Number one was sleep. That's it.
You can't do
Sounds-
it. You have to.
And now the interesting thing is, what happens once you sleep? What happens afterwards?
Still there.
You have to
You wake
you have to
up.
wake up. What happens when the Netflix show finishes? You
What's the next one? Then you don't get any sleep.
Then you don't get any sleep.
It's 3 a.m. and you're like,
What happens after the holiday?
You have to come back to
You
work.
have to come back. Yeah.
reality hits.
Reality hits. What happened when you has anybody completed TikTok yet? When you stop scrolling?
No. I've
I
tried.
don't know if that's possible. So, in one sense, if you look at all of these things, they are an escape for a certain amount of time. But then you have to come back to reality. And what many people try and do is escape their mind, right? But actually, we have to learn to sit with the mind and be with the mind. And this is a yogi here in India. He's doing a meditation. When we say the word meditation originates in Sanskrit. It's called dhyana. Now, dhyana has a rooted word in a lot of Eastern traditions. So Zen meditation also comes from the word dhyana, which is a Sanskrit word. And dhyana means to sit with, or to meditate, or to go within. So basically the idea is you're actually sitting with the mind, you're actually facing whatever it is you're facing in the mind, and you're detaching yourself from the mind. So many people trying to escape that reality, what's going on, but it's saying, no, don't escape it, but engage it. Engage it and become detached from it. And this is the first principle. I'm going to share 3 with you. The first principle is to go within. So actually, if we can learn to actually just stay still and be present, and which is all what we're actually all looking for, in one sense, to be conscious, to be present, for our mind to become, something we use rather than is used by us. We have to just learn to start. The starting point is to go within and engage with the mind. And we've mentioned, okay, there's many different types of yogas and systems, and what we know as yoga is often physical. But what Eastern wisdom tells us and teaches us, actually there's many different yogas, including a yoga of the mind. And when we're practicing these theories and these things, it is a yoga, a practice that you do of the mind. And I wanted to share with you, where does meditation originate from? Where does that word originate from? So this is a yogi. There's this famous, you might see it on the news, there's a famous festival happening in India right now called the Kumbh Mela, which is
Rishikesh, right?
in Rishikesh.
Haridwar.
So this festival, there's many yogis, they basically live in remote places, and then they come out, and then they basically just do that their whole life. It's really fascinating. I'm going to be in India at the same time, but I'm really scared to actually go there with the amount of crowd and people, but it's a fascinating experience. And what this yoga system, Dhyana Yoga, is a part of is a wider yoga system called Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga means 8 limb yoga. So there's 8 processes that we have to this theory. So the first one is the do's and don'ts, right? Like what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Like with any sport, let's say business, work, you have your do's and don'ts, right? If you're an athlete, okay, things you should eat, things you shouldn't eat, things you should wear, you shouldn't wear, things that are helpful for you and things that are not helpful for you. So it starts with these 2 processes, the do's and don'ts. And then we have the postures, right? So many yoga practices that you see now, that is actually asana, right? Which is mainly postures. The purpose of the posture is to detach yourself from the body, right? So you basically don't have bodily consciousness when you're in your meditation. So that's what it actually does. That's what it's designed for. And then we have pranayam, which is breathing. Has anyone done any breathing techniques before, pranayam? Okay, 2 of you. So when we do our 10-minute meditation, I'll teach you a small breathing technique as well. It's very powerful. Now what pranayama does is it helps control the mind. So the first one, asana, was to control the body, but this is now to control the mind. And it's actually this evidence-based that the quickest way to control your anxiety is through your breathing. When your mind is anxious, your breathing changes, right? So, you might have seen that you end up breathing heavier, but if you're relaxed, if you're calm, your breathing is different.
So if I can add maybe just from my own experience, because I thought that would be helpful and my own realization. So this word pranayama, pran actually means life's energies, which is flowing in all of us, and yam means to control. Okay, and essentially there is a direct link between mind and our breath. And the more conscious or the more we control our breath, our mind will automatically get controlled because there is a direct link. And I'm sure Rajiv will pick up later through that breathing technique. But I certainly have experienced this over the years. Whenever, what you actually said, if you are stressed, if you're anxious, if you suddenly just focus your energies on your breath, my anxiety disappears. Literally, I've seen it. I've witnessed this so many times when my mind is flickering, or I have some fears, natural fears, or when I get anxious, what's going to happen next. Things, especially things which are outside my control. If I just focus my energy in that moment on my breath, suddenly that starts to disappear. I don't need to go anywhere. Just staying here, I can try and control it. I just thought it's worth.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing your personal example. So once our breathing is controlled, then the idea is to withdraw from your senses. So the senses are very entangled and it can easily distract us. So the idea is, okay, how can you detach from your senses? Do you want to give the food out now, or are you?
I can wait till next.
Okay.
Finish this bit if you like.
Okay. Yeah. We'll have a another activity. Maybe that's a good time.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay. Then it's dhrana, which means concentration. So then you begin to concentrate the mind, right? You're starting to, because the mind is flickering everywhere. It's got many thoughts. It's got many things going on. So then you try and hone in and concentrate your mind, and then you actually reach meditation, which is dhyana, which is basically you're becoming absorbed into that sphere of stillness, of the mind actually becoming engaged in that zone. And actually it goes deeper as well. As when you go into, once you can do that, you can go into pure absorption. And there's different types of it, and I'll share a bit about the different types of meditations that we have. Now, what's happened is, in modern days, yoga has become basically this. This is modern yoga, right? Which is the breathing and the posture. But in a way, it's kind of lost a bit of its soul, because we only focus on these two things. But actually, it's part of a wider system, and there's many different yogas as well. But it's good we're seeing a change and people kind of really getting into this idea of meditation and yoga. Now I'm going to pull some references here from an Eastern book. So this comes from a book called the Bhagavad Gita. It's a really famous book read by many famous theologians and famous people like Einstein, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, even recently Obama, and there was the movie Oppenheimer. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but he was a real scholar of the Bhagavad Gita. Why? Because it's got so much wisdom and nuggets in it, so much jewels of knowledge. Even Stephen Covey, who wrote 7 Habits, he references that I actually took knowledge from this book. And so for those of you who are not sure, it's a theological book, a lot of philosophy in there as well. It's quite an inspirational book. Gandhi also took a lot of inspiration from it. And it's really relevant. If we look at it now, many people still study, and the principles and the quotes in there are still very practical for us. And it's basically set, for those of you who don't know anything about it, it's set on a battlefield. where this warrior is about to fight a war, and he's fighting a war with all his brothers and cousins and uncles, and he basically is like, I don't want to fight. You know, I'm scared to fight. I don't think I should kill my family, and I don't know what to do. And there's a whole backstory behind it, but this is like a conversation. And that conversation brings out many truths, wisdom, insights, etc. And it goes into, okay, you know, living life, how to be practical, etc. And there's a whole chapter dedicated on the mind. And the first thing Arjuna says is, it seems like what you're saying is impractical and undurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady, right? Then he goes on to say, I think it's more difficult to control the mind than it is to control the wind. Now, who here has struggled with their mind? Okay, pretty much everyone. If anyone hasn't, then yeah, please come and give the talk. But the point here is Arjuna was the best of the best, right? He was the principal warrior of his time. Literally, the war was riding on him, okay? And even he was struggling with the mind. Even he was having depression and doubts, which basically shows us actually you're not alone. You know, the best of the best have problems with the mind. And it is a difficult thing to control. So that's something really important for us to understand. And many of us don't kind of realize, but we've had through our lives a lot of temptations and tribulations. Many things have happened in our life, but because we're not able to frame these things happening in our life, therefore our minds become disturbed, or we've stored it in some place or somewhere, and that's affected us. So having that wisdom and understanding to frame whatever's happening in our life can help us, give us perspective. Now, this is some stats of mental health. So 1 in 5, and this is 1 in 5 people suffer from mental health, or are suffering right now from a mental illness. Before, what it was is either you were sick or you were well, right? And this is very recently. Like either you were hospitalized because you had mental health, or you were not hospitalized. But now it's changed. Now it's like, okay, we think everybody has a degree of mental health, but it's just on a different scale. So people are on a scale right now rather than yes or no. 6.7% of adults suffer with depressive disorder given in a year, which is they have a major depressive meltdown, they can't cope, they're struggling when life gets too tough, or when things happen and it's been bottled up and then it kind of comes out. Bipolar, again, a very common disease and very common aspect of the mind. Eating disorder, we're seeing that again really, really prominent now. It's growing, especially with younger generations. Mental health is really prominent. What to say younger generations? I think any generation, it's a problem. Anxiety. Anxiety is really common right now, again, especially in the youth. If you do a survey right now, it's just ever increasing. And National Health Service can't cope with what's going on. And anxiety is mainly due to these 3 things: irregular habits, unnatural lifestyle, and unreasonable expectations. So when we have these 3 things, it's basically the root of anxiety. Suicide. So they say every 65 minutes, somebody commits suicide in the UK. So during this talk, somebody would have committed suicide. And suicide is basically the mind killing the body. Yeah, so the mind killing the body, and that's essentially what suicide is. So it's crazy to think how somebody can talk themselves into taking their own life. But it happens, it's very common. And a lot of adults, 56% of adults, actually have mental illness but don't get treatment. You know, so it's a really common phenomenon.
Is that because they're not aware, or they're not asking for help?
I think there's a number of things. Maybe they're not aware. Maybe they are aware, but they don't want to. They've lost trust in the system. right? They don't feel like it's really going to get to the root of the problem, which is what I would say is the biggest reason.
It's also
You know.
still taboo, right? People
Is it
don't
taboo?
want to.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's still a taboo right now. So how do you train the mind? And this is why we want to make this, this is why when I look at this kind of wisdom, it's very powerful yet practical. How we can actually train the mind and live in a more conscious way. Now, so we're going to do a little breakout now, and maybe we can also give out lunch as well. So here's some questions for you guys, and you can discuss in your pairs. When the alarm goes off in the morning, I usually ... When I have an unpleasant task to do, I usually... when I have to make an important decision, I tend to... And I'm sure you guys have to make loads of important decisions, right, in this workspace. When I'm unsuccessful, I tend to... And the last one is, during a disagreement, I tend to... So there's 5 questions there. So discuss it in your pairs, and hopefully we'll get some lunch to you as well. Amazing. So I thought we'd come back, and did you guys have a chance to discuss some of these points?
Yes.
Anyone want to share any answers that they shared or their friends shared? Yeah.
We had an interesting one here. No alarm.
Yeah, same here.
Uh-huh.
No alarms.
No alarm. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I personally snooze when I'm asleep.
Uh-huh.
So there's many times that I wake up and I'm like, oh, my alarm should have gone off 30 minutes ago.
Mhm.
And I realize I actually snoozed it in my sleep. So I just set a few alarms
Uh-huh.
quite early, and then I pace myself until the last one. I know I can have to get up.
Wonderful. Amazing. Yeah, anyone else? Or any of the other questions? So when they have an unpleasant task, what do people tend to do, or what answers do you have?
Mine when you get on with it.
Procrastinate.
Procrastinate, yeah.
I go straight into it. If I've got something unpleasant to do,
Yeah.
the thought of doing something and the effort of worrying about it is
Mhm.
not worth it, so I will always prioritise that and get it through. And even if I don't finish it, getting it started takes away some of the fear around it.
Yeah.
So have you trained your mind to that? Were you always like this? If you don't.
As a general rule, I'm a good starter, less good finisher. But I know that if I eat my frogs, which was something I learned a long time ago, the anxiety, eat your frogs, do the most unpleasant thing first.
Yeah.
And so I'll write down everything I've got to do. The worst one, the one that I'm dreading, I will bring it to the top.
Yeah, because the other should do it.
And actually then sometimes just knowing that
I'll
you
call
can
you
tick
next
it off.
time. I've got a horrible task.
So you don't kick the can down the
Well, I've
road?
found that actually worrying about it often works. Or the stuff that I've put off.
Mhm.
So like, I'll do my tax return on the 6th of April, just because I'm like, that's done, and I'm so
So the gym,
Yeah.
That's a good one.
No, I did start mine
And sometimes it's just
9 months ago.
It's nice you've got into that mindset of biting that frog first, right?
100%.
Getting
Yeah.
and then you get a nice satisfaction. What about when making important decisions? What was people's natural...
I take a step back.
Take a step back?
Yeah.
Overanalyze.
Overanalyze, yeah. Paralysis by analysis, yeah.
Yep.
Yes, so the contrary to the first ones, the unpleasant task, similar to Emma, I give myself a reward
Yes.
to finish that.
Right,
So,
right,
To think of
Something.
everything.
Yeah.
so then that makes me get it done faster. The opposite is for the important decision, because you shouldn't do it
Yeah.
as soon as possible.
Right.
You need to, like Pato said, take a step back, do some of the other stuff that will give you some clarity of mind before
Yeah.
you make the decision.
Make a
But,
decision.
I mean, for me, important decisions is, yes, gather the facts,
Mhm.
but, there is a point when gathering the facts, basically, there is a law of diminishing returns. Quite
Yeah.
quickly. Get a good picture, get an idea of what this means and what are the signals, and then you need to make a decision.
Mm.
So I like making decisions quickly, provided I have collected the facts.
Mhm.
And I know it's not going to be perfect. But I make a decision, and then I can change the decision when I have more information, but at least I make some progress.
Right.
Otherwise, no decisions are made, no
Yeah.
babies are made, and
Yeah.
we're not making the progress.
Then you're not making progress. Yeah, 100%. When I'm unsuccessful, I tend to. What was anyone want to share?
Try and find another way to do it.
Okay, good. Anyone else?
Really annoyed.
Get really annoyed?
So I have to take myself away. And that
Uh-huh.
tends to be when I'll like go for a run or do a hit class or something, do
Uh-huh.
something almost physically
Yeah,
aggressive or
Yeah.
exhausting.
yeah. You
To
need to
then refocus
bring
again.
it back, yeah. And then during a disagreement, I tend to.
Lose my shit.
Okay.
Cry.
Cry, speak louder.
Get angry.
Get angry. Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
think focusing on the outcome. I've had to learn, I'm not saying that, but I've had to learn how to do all of this.
Yes.
And I just find focusing with all of this. What
Yes.
is it, and I say this all the time, what does success look like? So with a disagreement with me and my husband, I'm a very emotional person,
Yeah.
and that's why I've had to work really hard on this, because
Yes.
I lead in my emotions, so I've had to learn how to do this. Actually, what do we want the outcome to be? And it's him and I against the problem, not me against him.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's nice.
But
Very nice.
you have to be very aware to do
Yeah.
that. Because
Yeah.
normally, if I was left to my own emotion,
Yeah.
I'd tell them, fuck off.
Yeah. Amazing. I love the answers you guys shared and the perspective you guys have given. So thank you so much. And we're going to unpack what you've just said as well a little bit, and also what you said. This is one of my favorite analogies from Eastern tradition. It's basically describing actually our body and our self is like a chariot, where you have the senses, which are like the horses, you have the reins, which is like the mind, and then you have the intelligence, your intelligence, which is driving and controlling your mind and senses. And at the back is your consciousness or your soul or whatever you want to call it. Now, what's interesting is this can go in two directions, okay? In one direction, it could be your senses and your mind are controlling how you react and respond, right? You're responding to your stimulus, you're responding to your senses, you're responding to your natural state of reacting to something, right? When your mind and your senses are in control. However, what we have to learn to do is actually be the person in control of your mind and your senses. So as your intelligence is controlled by your consciousness, and the more you're in this sphere of being in control, the more you can make decisions and act in a way that you want to act, not you're reacting, right? So this nicely depicts it, and the same thing what you were saying as well. It's like, okay, am I going to let my emotions, am I going to let my mind take control and react to the situation, or am I going to take a step back, see the bigger picture, and understand, okay, what is what is it that I want to do? What does success look like? You know, that's actually the consciousness we want to end up thinking of. So here we're going to share, again, this also comes from the same book, The Power of the Mind. So it says actually the mind can be the best of friends or the worst enemy. Now it's really interesting because we can frame a situation positively or negatively. We can see somebody as good or bad, and that's just the mind framing that situation. I don't know if you guys have been ever like going on holiday, and you're really looking forward to going on that holiday. Like you're excited, you're looking forward to it, you've planned it for ages. Then you get to that holiday, and then all you can think about is what's going on at home and that thing that's bothering you, right? I don't know if you guys have experienced that. It's interesting that the mind can turn heaven into hell, but also hell into heaven, right? So it's actually all our perspective. And that's the power of the mind. The power of the mind can make every situation differently. You know, say you get that email, you get that email and then you react straight away, that person's in it for me, that person doesn't like me, I knew they didn't like me, look what they said. It's just your mind's telling you. Controlling the mind. Now, the reality is, it's hard to control the mind. The mind is flickering. It's like that. It's hard to basically subdue the mind. But what we have to do is remold the mind. We have to train the mind. Like some of you mentioned, okay, yes, naturally I react like this, but I've trained my mind to be like this. And that's basically what we're doing, is we're remolding the mind. And there's two things, and this is our second principle. There's two things that we can understand. One is suitable practice, and two is detachment. And that can be summarized into feeding and fencing. Right? This is our second principle, feeding and fencing. So the analogy is given, an analogy I'd like to share with you, is the mind's like a baby, right? And as the baby needs protecting, right? It needs fencing. You need to protect it. So you have to protect it from negativity, from bad thoughts, from different situations which won't be good for the mind. So you have to fence the mind. You have to
provocative situations, which can provoke.
Yeah, it could be anything. Provocative situations, negative energy, negative people, negative thoughts, thought patterns, So we have to fence, we have to protect the mind from that. Simultaneously, we have to feed the mind with positive things. We have to feed the mind with things that are helpful, and that's going to move it into your more conscious state. Right? It could be reading something that helps the mind. It could be an atmosphere. It could be the people around you. And we'll unpack that a bit. But these are two important principles. What am I feeding the mind, and what am I protecting the mind from? It's like the content you watch, right? Am I going to protect my mind from watching negative stuff? But what am I going to watch instead? What am I going to, when you're in the car on the way here or on the tube, mostly come by tube, am I going to listen to a podcast, or am I going to delve into a conversation arguing with someone? I don't know. So what do I want to feed? Same with those people around you. And I loved your internet browser analogy, that your mind's like an internet browser. Many of you feel like that, right? Your mind is open, has many different tabs. This is my favorite analogy of describing actually what the mind is like. So the mind is like an internet browser, right? You have your Google or Chrome or whatever. So that's actually the mind. Now, it's interesting actually, when we open up our Google or Chrome or Firefox or whatever, it almost understands what we want to do. Like you were talking about holiday, and then it comes up saying, hey, do you want to book your flights now? Like, hey, do you want to go to this restaurant now? Now, like with any browser, it doesn't really have we can control it, we can set it. And with every browser, there's a home page, right? The thing that opens up. And same with us. We have our natural tendencies. We have when you wake up in the morning, you either see the glass half full or half empty, right? Your personality and your natural makeup has a natural way of reacting to things, right? And that's just your homepage, okay? You're innate with that. You have your favorites, right? The things you gravitate towards, the things you like, the things you want to do. And your favorites could be good or they could be bad, right? It could be either. Then you have history, okay? Think about it. You have your university, your teenage years, your childhood, all the impressions that you've had, all the relationships that you've had. Imagine your browser has everything stored in there somewhere in your mind. And then you have autocompletes, www.a, and then it will go to Amazon or suggest whatever it is. So you have your natural tendencies, your habits, the things that trigger you to be in a certain way and respond in a certain way. And this one, again, hard to control, but pop-ups, right? So randomly, you'll just get a thought or an idea or you just don't know where it came from, but it came from somewhere. Now, the interesting thing is, just like a web browser, can we change the homepage? Yes, we can change the homepage. We can reconfigure our natural way of responding to things. right? Just like favorites, can we reset our favorites? Can we look at which favorites are good for us and which ones are not good for us? Which habits are good for us and which habits are not good for us? History, can we delete the history? Right? Yes, you can add more positive impressions. You can try and remove the negative impressions. Can you reset the autocompletes? Can you reset your habits? Yes. And the pop-ups, I think you can block pop-ups now. So, and how do we do this? And it all stems from deleting and re-entering. You know, we have to delete and remove the stuff that's not good for us, and re-enter and repurpose the things that are conducive to us and help us. Now, here's a little, just a quick ways of helping you reach that state, or what you can feed yourself. There's things like meditation, guided meditation, breath work we discussed, blocking yourself, like doing a digital detox. Someone mentioned TikTok here. Conscious habits, I don't know if you've read this book, Atomic Habits, but it talks about how we can be more conscious and intentional with the habits that we have. Journaling, and I'm going to talk a bit about journaling in a second. And also body consciousness. I think some of you mentioned going for a run, going for a gym. Are we looking after our body? And again, go back to the yoga system. The body, breathing, the mind, these are all interlinked. And then it comes to the 5 a.m. So specifically talking about meditation. So they say the best time to do meditation is great, but the best time to do it is during the morning. I don't know if you've read that there's many famous CEOs and successful people, they wake up at 5 a.m. Does anyone here wake up at 5 a.m. and there you go?
My choice.
I've read the book as well.
You read the book as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. But also, your body needs to be, I think personally, you have to be a morning person. You can't. Some people function better in the evening. I think it would be a killer. I think it really depends how your body works. And I'm very good in the morning. I've always been, since I was a kid, very good in the morning. So the switch to 5 wasn't that difficult.
So what I like to do is suggest, and again, this is a hard suggestion, and we can take it, is everybody experiment. Try this for a month. Okay. Try it for a week.
I think my work will suffer.
Huh?
I think my work will suffer.
Your work?
And my husband too.
So okay.
Look, it says.
I'll
add one thing there, sir. If you go,
this is only possible if you go to bed at like 9.
No, I was going to come exactly that. I think a lot of this is habits, right? Because which we have built up over the years.
My kids start to bed at 9.
Okay.
Yeah, but so interesting. Just one thing. So I've always been a night owl. Just to Margarita's point, I function better in the night, but I had certain health things as a result of that. But I changed it to a morning thing. So I try to go to bed early. There are days you can't. But I try to wake up early. So I changed it in the last 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, made big difference. But even if your body clock is not used to it, if you can consistently follow, you can change to slightly earlier. It's not, I don't do 5 a.m. every day. I try to do 5 a.m. most days.
Yeah.
It's also the only time I get an hour before my son wakes up.
Right. So I'll give you the.
I'll just add, one thing which I was sharing with Batuk when we were chatting earlier. I mean, I was watching a speaker, and this is something, I don't know, I may have said this with somebody, I don't know whether Mia or somebody. This speaker was speaking specifically what we do first thing in the morning and last thing at night will manifest in our lives. Okay, I'll repeat. What we do first thing in the morning and what we do last thing at night will manifest in our lives. And this I experimented, to Rajiv's point, I actually experimented this. What I was doing consciously at night. When I woke up in the morning, the same thought literally I woke up with. When I was literally meditating on something. And then I consciously, a couple of years ago, changed some of those habits myself. Literally, I was like, no, I'm not going to carry on with this. This is not good. So then I've literally switched off emails, anything in the morning. First thing, I will not check whether Ian has sent me any emails. Sorry, Ian. I will not check. The first thing, I will never get into any of these things. And I feel it has had a huge impact on my mental and emotional health actually over the years. And it takes 6 weeks to change habits, by the way. I think science says it takes typically about 6 weeks. So if we don't persevere, we go back to the old habits or old ways of living. Sorry, I just thought I'd share this.
So I have a question.
Personal experience.
Now when do you look at your emails?
Sorry?
Now, during your morning process?
Yeah, when I get into office.
When you get into office?
Yeah. So even on my tube, I'm actually meditating. So I'm big into meditation now. So even on the train, I'm constantly meditating. Just literally, my eyes are closed and I'm meditating on my journey. I don't look at my phone usually, unless my wife has said she needs to message something or there is something which is personal, more personal. Yeah. But otherwise, my office emails I will typically check when I come into office.
I have a very quick question. When you're meditating on the train, are you thinking or do you completely block everything?
So I do few of the things which Rajiv had on that slide. You know, the previous, he had 8 boxes.
Yes.
So I do some of those, like silent meditation or mantra meditation. Yeah.
So I'll put it into an analogy for you, and I think this will give you a nice grasp of why meditation is impactful. Imagine there's an archer, right? And he's shooting his bow. Okay. So when you look at the arrow, if the archer is shooting his bow, the arrow is going backwards, right? Now it kind of seems a bit counterproductive, like the arrow needs to go forwards and shoot forward, but the arrow is actually initially going backwards. But what happens is when he goes backwards and he releases, it pierces his target. Now the same is with meditation. The idea is that you step back, you go backwards, you use that time to just draw yourself back. But then what happens is during the day, once you're active, once you're conscious, when you're living, when you're doing your day-to-day activities, you're much more impactful, you're much more effective, you're much more conscious. So this is the idea. This is why meditation is so powerful. It's not just about getting the emails done, but it's about consciously getting them done effectively and not reacting and not having that stress and emotion. So therefore you have that separation and you can be more impactful. It's not that people that meditate aren't doing the work. No, they're doing the work, but they're just being more effective in when they're doing it. So yeah, it's recommended the 5 a.m. club. Again, like I said, I get it. It's hard. I totally get it. I also am a struggler with waking up early in the morning. I have to use different ways to make myself, like, force myself out of bed. But what I do is I spend a lot of time with monks. So I try and make this, like, try and get this wisdom from them. And what I've noticed, when I'm spending time with them and I've gone into a flow of waking up early and I have a clear intention, I definitely feel much better. I feel more conscious. I feel more present. So it does work. So I just thought to share 2 practical things. One is meditation early in the morning, and second is journaling. Does anyone journal here? Okay.
When I'm angry.
When you're angry. Okay. It's amazing that you do it. Here is a quote from a biography of a Catholic monk. Would anyone like to read this? Or anyone volunteers?
Mia?
Anyone?
His most vital writing is private, what he did for himself, because he made constant notes to help clarify things for himself. He thought and sought to express experience on paper as a self-guide rather than to reveal anything. He sought to get rid of the role, to flee the role of the monk in order to become the monk, to be and not merely to appear to be. These are great and profound differences which few perceive, even in the religious life.
So it's interesting. What journaling actually does is it helps us between these two spheres. Like I was talking about, and some of you mentioned, are we responding to the mind and senses, right, which is our outer world, or do we want to tap into the reflective self, which is our soul and intelligence, right? So the more we are in our impulsive self, right, the more we're going to see that happen outside. We're going to react. Our mind's going to be in control. But what journaling does, and these activities do, it slows down your thoughts. It slows down what you're thinking, and it helps you be reflective. And our mind is we're constantly battling between these two things: our reflective self and our impulsive self. Right? Now, which state would you rather be in? Like, what state do you want your natural self to be in? Things are going to keep happening. Troubles to keep, like, life's going to come at you at different angles at different times. How we react to it is the choice that we have. And these practices are there to help us respond and also relate. Now, we're coming here to our third principle. Essentially, we have to shift our thoughts from negative to positive. And it's all about habits. And these are 6 habits that I think can help you sort of navigate, being conscious in the mind. The first one is hearing. And this is one of the most important ones. When you hear from the right source, when you hear that wisdom, when you're hearing that podcast, when you're hearing from the right people, you understand that knowledge and why it's important. So you're hearing this talk and you're hearing things that you may not have heard before, but without that knowledge, it's going to be hard for you to implement and practically apply. So it starts with hearing. The second is associate. So, who do you have around you? And there's studies, like you are, one of 5 people. Even like work-wise, if you're with people that are low performing, they drag you down, they drag the whole company down. And people that are high performing are, bring you up. But the same goes for conscious association. If you're around friends that are really negative, that are gossiping, that are moving you downwards. I mean, not saying gossiping is that everyone loves gossiping, but moving you in a way that, moving your consciousness down, then that's what you're going to become. That's going to be your natural state. But if you're with people that are of a higher consciousness, positive mindset, encouraging, then you're going to get that. Blocking, like we discussed, blocking the bad habits, blocking the things that aren't good for you. And also then it comes down to importance, right? I can say, meditation, I can say journaling, or you have the things that you also do for peace, you might go for running or whatever. Are you giving it importance? Are you making it so you prioritize it in your life? Like Anupam just mentioned, he prioritizes meditation in the morning over the emails because he knows that's important and that helps him through the day. So what are you going to prioritize? What importance do you give it? The last one for last is track. So with habits, it's really important to track your habits. I don't know if you have a habit tracker or if you've seen a habit tracker before. So once I was with a monk and I went into his room. I was just fascinated, like what does he do? Like how do they live? And I went into his room and then I was like, he was like ticking things off on the sheet. And I was like, what's this monk doing, ticking things off on the sheet, right? So I asked him, like, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? And he's like, yeah, I have this habit tracker. I basically okay, I have to go for a walk every day. I need to meditate. I need to read. I need to do this. And he was a monk that's traveling a lot. And he says, when I travel a lot, things can easily slip up. So therefore, if I keep a habit tracker, if I notice twice there's not a tick, then I know I need to focus on that and prioritize it. So when we introspect and when we're knowing what we're doing, then it's a practical solution. And the last but not the least is service. If we have a mindset of service and we prioritize service, then life becomes much, much easier and your decisions become better. There is studies that show, like for mental health, that they did a study of 3 components, either doing voluntary work, taking medication, or cognitive behavioral therapy. And the one that came out on top was doing voluntary work, giving back. So if we have a service mindset, then that can help us. Sometimes I'm involved with this charity that does food distribution. We do it in central London, and many companies come as well, and we give out food to the homeless, and it's really fulfilling, and you're seeing that happening a lot. Because when we give back, we feel better about ourselves. So this is our third principle, and I'll just summarize. The first principle was going within. So it starts with taking a step back, and instead of escaping the mind, you have to, with any of these things, we have to sit with the mind. We have to engage the mind. The second principle was feeding and fencing. So what are we giving? What are we going to feed the mind? What things do we take in? And what things do we block? And the third one was habits. So how can we practically conduce our life with this acronym? We love acronyms, by the way. So yeah, if you ever learn with us or study with us, we do that. What we can also do is, before we finish, is do a quick 7-minute, hopefully a 7-minute meditation, if that's all right with you guys, if you want to try.
Can I ask you something before you start?
Yes, please. Yeah.
So you know how we have all of this prescribed to do, right? Like exercising, things that are bad, things that are good. And meditation is one of those things, like you don't want to take your phone the first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
But what if meditation can mean different, like something that gives you peace of mind,
Yes.
can be different to a different person, right?
Yes.
So I don't know, like for me, the checking the work stuff doesn't give me anxiety. It's the easiest way to start my day. I mean, obviously not the first thing after my son, etc., etc. But it's just like getting through that to-do list before I go for my run or go to the gym. Then gives me that peace that I know how my day is going to be structured, and that's okay, right? Like it doesn't have to be you meditating, or not doing that doesn't make you very anxious, if that makes any sense. Like I don't see checking the mails or doing the work, because a large part of all of our lives is work, right? And if we have that very carefully structured during the day, the rest of the aspects of life sort of fall into place. So I still like to prioritize that, that is structured. And
so I'm glad you mentioned it. So again, I'm just giving you a snapshot. I'm just scratching the surface. But as you mentioned it, I'll briefly share. See, there's two types of things that are important, and this is what the wisdom talks about. There is the internal, and then there's the external. The internal meditation, and then the external. There's your conscious activities that you do away from everything, and then there's your work activities, right? In Sanskrit, we say sanatan and swa, right? So swa means your occupational duty, right? So it's like your ikigai. I don't know if anyone's heard of this Japanese idea of finding your purpose, right? So when you're aligned with your purpose, right, and you're aligned with your career, your job, your path, therefore that is also a meditation, right? So you're basically concentrating on that, and you kind of are being your best self based on that purpose that you're driving. Okay, so that's your swa dharma, and then your sanatana dharma is basically your what you do outside of that, which is the same for everyone. Everyone will meditate. Everyone will need that idea to be detached, etc. Right? Now, both these tracks go side by side. One can't go without the other. If you need to be situated in the right job, in the right position, your unique purpose, your unique contribution. And if you're not, your mind's still going to be flickering, even if you do lots of meditation and even if you do loads of these things. The same way, if you're just focused on your occupational duty, you'll struggle if you don't take a step back and be detached. So these two tracks are like really important, and we often do a session on purpose where we look at, okay, are you aligned with your career? If you're basically at work, waiting for lunchtime, and then you're waiting for the day to finish, maybe you're not in the right job. Maybe if you're waking up in the morning and you're dreading reading your emails, maybe you're not in the right job. If anybody quits after this session, no responsibility. Please have us back.
I'll add just maybe one thing. My own reflection checking emails again, because this is, I agree with you. I mean, at one point this was, my wife was, she gave me a very interesting, her own kind of reflection. What I realized is a lot of times emails are not in our control. Okay? So if I'm checking my emails first thing in the morning, and if I have some strange email from somebody, okay, that's definitely gonna either upset me, or even before, this is literally when I have woken up. So that was my kind of moment that, look, I'm not gonna check my emails. I will first focus on whatever I need to do, get my mind in the right space, and then I'm ready for the world. That was kind of how I started. Then I'm okay. Then you can throw anything at me, I can just manage. But because at that point, you've just literally woken up. You can...
Yeah, I just like align with what you said. So for me, work is a big part of who I am, and that doesn't take away any of the personal aspects of it. It's just like you work so hard to get here. So it's not taking away any of the personal stuff. But it's what puts the, in very economical sense, what puts the food on the table. But it doesn't take the anxiety out of it. You know what I mean? It's something that is taking the money out of the picture. It's part of who I am. So for me, that the working out, the work,
I think your
is a part of
purpose is aligned.
So
100%.
Something like that. So for me, it's my. So even when I go on holiday, people ask me, "Oh, are you stressed? Like, why did you reply to this email?" No, I'm not stressed. That's my 1 hour. I like what I do, and you know. So
you're living your purpose, and ultimately that's the everyone's smiling. I think this day you probably get emails
from. You might be thinking so boring. It's a purpose, like being an acuity, but it's just that like I've grown up always thinking. Anyway, it's a long story, but we come from a very, very business-oriented family, completely different, like very orthodox. Females didn't go to work. You study, but you get married and you stay at home. But my father worked very differently to bring me to a kind of a contradictory role. So then that becomes a part of who you are, So then it's like, okay, no, I'm not taking that for granted.
That's also a great skill. Okay, so nice upright, and then what we do is just close our eyes, and we're going to just do some breathing. So we'll do 3 breaths. So what you do is you take a deep breath in through the nose for 5 seconds, hold for 5, and then breathe out through the mouth. So take a deep breath in, and hold, and let go. Again, deep breath in. And let go. Okay, one more deep breath in. And hold. And let go. So now we're just going to begin to empty the mind. So just clear the mind of any thoughts you have. Anything that's not serving you, just begin to empty the mind. And now when you bring your attention to the forehead, so begin to relax the forehead, relax the eyes, relax the nose, the mouth, the jaw. Relax the neck, any stiffness you have in the neck. Relax the shoulders. Sometimes we feel we have the weight of the world on our shoulders, but just feel like being lifted. Begin to relax the chest. And as we're focusing on the chest, I just want you to bring your attention to the heart center. The heart center is a space where we can feel love, emotions, and connectivity. And the heart center, I just want you to imagine a ball of energy. It could be any color that you like, spinning clockwise. The more it spins, the more it grows. going to send that energy, come back to the heart space. You're going to send that to the rest of the body. So now begin to relax your left hand, your arm, your palm, your fingers. Relax the right hand, the arm, the palm, the fingers. Relax the stomach. Let your stomach relax. Relax the legs, the knees, the legs, the feet. Just remove any negative energy within your body, any negative thoughts now, and just feel them leaving through your feet. We're now going to focus on the mind. So we need to think of a place where you can go and connect into this meditation. It could be any place you like, indoors, outdoors, or in nature, whichever place you find the most peaceful. And just begin to imagine that place more and more. And we need to fully take yourself to that place right now. What do you see around you? What sounds can you hear? What can you touch? Going to now just think of, as you're connecting in that space in your heart center, just think of one thing that you're really grateful for. It could be someone in your life, or it could be something. What are you really truly grateful for, and why? As you're sitting in this place, just think about that, meditate on that. Feel that emotion of gratitude. With that gratitude, I'd just like to now set an intention, whatever intention you want to set for yourself. Wherever you are in this peaceful place, just set that intention. What intention you want to set for yourself? Take your last moments in that peaceful place, or wherever you are right now. Just take one last glance at what you're seeing around you, what you feel, what you can touch, what you can hear. Just take the last moments in your peaceful place. at your own pace, at your own time, gently bring yourself back into the room. How's everyone feeling? How's
Sleepy.
sleepy?
Sorry about my coughing fit.
Anyone else to share? For the first time, any experiences you want to share?
Yeah, I feel actually good, actually, yeah. Because I thought about someone, so I thought about my son, I have a 17-month-old. That was the last thought that I kind of opened my eyes. I actually feel, I forgot actually what I was stressed about, which is something. And I just saw the clock now, I'm back to stress.
Go back to meditating.
So yeah, it's a short technique, and you can use it at any time. So yeah, I'm so grateful that you guys allowed us to come here today. And yeah, if there's any questions, I'm sure they want to speak more. Yeah.
So one of the reasons why I didn't do it before, when you have to think about all those steps yourself, it gets you out. So what do you recommend? Can we use YouTube videos? Or?
Yeah, and I can recommend some to you, some YouTube videos. So there's different types of meditation. I recommend you try different ones. There's silent meditation, there's guided meditation, there's mantra meditation, there's different ones. And the idea is you just test which one works for you. And sometimes one period works better, another period works differently. So yeah, maybe I can come and just do a whole meditation. Just to
I use something on Netflix.
There are apps also.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, there's many apps as well.
And then Spotify, if you've got Spotify, you can do
Hi, my name is Radhi, Acuity Knowledge Partners. So just finished the session with Rajiv Nanda. The session was very insightful. A lot of the concepts we have heard all over the place, so this was really good to put everything into perspective. Taking a lot back and the first time meditating, so is something that I will use. But yeah, thank you. Very good session.
Mia.
Leah, what do you like from today?
Thank you.
I mean, the entire session was great. Really, it puts things into perspective and kind of makes you think about things a little bit differently, just in terms of like day-to-day life, and even what we were talking about in terms of what you're waking up to and what you're going to sleep with. Just these little habits that you almost don't realise that you get into can really impact and affect your day-to-day mental well-being, and it's definitely something that I will, going forward, take more notice of and maybe try to break some of my more negative ones.
Will you be joining the 5 AM club?
Do you know what? I'll give it a go. I actually recently just went to Australia, and the jet lag hit me on the way back. I was waking up. I was kind of naturally fell into that pattern of waking up really early and going to sleep really early. And me and my partner both said we really kind of enjoyed, like it did make us feel a lot better, but obviously then life gets back to normal and you fall back into normal habits. So I would definitely like to give it a go, but we'll see. Maybe once it gets a bit warmer and it's not freezing cold and dark outside at 5. Yeah, it's very hard in the winter. A bit different when you're in Sydney.
Are you going to be practicing any meditation techniques now?
Yeah, I'll definitely give it a go. It's something I've tried in the past, definitely, before you go to sleep, to kind of help with like sleeping and stuff. So, but I think you forget how relaxed and, really zen it makes you feel. It does kind of help empty your mind. I think it's a great thing to do before you go to sleep, especially if you've been working late or you've got a lot on your mind personally. So it's something I'll definitely try, and I'm going to get some recommendations of Rajiv to look into.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thanks.